Hello student. Today we are going to discuss about one more topic in first PU, that is transport in plants, that is in a plant physiology. What is meant by transport? So transport andre molecules, substance, ions one place ಇಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ಗೆ ಮೂವ್ ಆಗೋದು. That is transport nothing but the movement of molecules from one place to another place. So here the plants need to move a molecules over a long distance and even a short distance. So here the photosynthesis or food synthesized by the leaves have also to be moved to all parts including the root tips embedded deep inside the soil. ಸೊ ಫೋಟೋಸಿಂಥಸಿಸ್ ಆದಮೇಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಫುಡ್ ಏನು ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಕೂಡ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಎರಡೂ ಟೈಪ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಸಮು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ nothing but the substance from one part to another part within the plant body, it has been translocated or shows a movement. So here over a small distance, that is a small distance transport andre the transport occurs between the adjacent cell, one cell ಇಂದ ಮತ್ತು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸೆಲ್ಸಿನ ಮಧ್ಯ ನಡೆಯುವಂತಹ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ನ ನಾವು ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So whereas a long distance transport, it involves the translocation molecule. It involves a xylem and even a phloem elements. So here in rooted plants, the transport in xylem is unidirectional. So roots in the absorb agro water, ions, minerals, it must be translocated in a unidirectional, ಅಂದರೆ root in the upper partಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದು translocation ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. The organic compounds synthesized in the leaves are exported to other parts of the plant including the storage organ. ಸೊ ದೇ ಲೀಫಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಫುಡ್ಡು ಅಪ್ಪರ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ಗೂ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈವನ್ ಲೋಯರ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ಗೂ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದ ಮಿನರಲ್ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೆಡ್ ಅಪ್ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಇಫ್ ಎನಿ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಗೋಸ್ ಅಂಡರ್ senescence ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಏಜ್. ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ withdrawn ಫ್ರಮ್ ದಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಮೂವ್ ದ ಗ್ರೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಗ್ರೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಸೆನೆಸಿನ್ ಏಜ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಪಾರ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಇರೋವಂತಹ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ಸು ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂಥ ಎಸೆನ್ಷಿಯಲಿ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋ ಗ್ರೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಅದೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೋಕೇಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಮೂವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ it occurs in 3 levels. So here the uptake and loss of water and solutes by individual cell. So here the water, ions or molecules that has been absorbed, it need to be transported through each cell in a plant body. So it involves a short distance transport and even a long distance transport. The short distance transport of substance, it involves cell to cell at the levels of tissues and organ. So whereas the long distance transport involves the movement of sap within the xylem and phloem at the level of whole plant body. So here the short distance transportation explain ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಚಿಕ್ಕದಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಫೋಟೋಕಾಪಿ ಇದೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ the water and ions that has been absorbed from the root hairs, it has been transported by mechanism of apoplast and even a symplast. ಬಟ್ ಈ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡುವಾಗ ಒಂದು ಸೆಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸೆಲ್ ಅಂದರೆ ದ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಒನ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಟು ಅನದರ್ ಸೆಲ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಅಡ್ಜಸೆಂಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟಿಂಗ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್. Whereas the long distance transport, it involves a transpiration and root pressure. So transpiration andre ಏನು? So removal of excess of water from the plant body, that is from the aerial parts of the plant body. It may be through a stomata, leaves, cuticle. So the amount of transpiration, it was completely relating on the rate of absorption. ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ, ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಮೌಂಟು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಅದನ್ನು ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬೈ ಅ ರೂಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್. Continuous tube of water depends upon the water, that is by cohesion and tension. So cohesion and adhesion anta kuda karitivi. So these are the two properties of water, so which involves the attraction between the two water molecules and even the attraction of water with the xylem vessels. The cell transport process. Here the cell membrane, which is also called selectively permeable membrane. So because it was not allowing all the substance to get enters inside the cell, so it is called selectively permeable. So here the plasma membrane, which acts as a semi-permeable, it was showing a means of transport, that is by passive transport and active transport. So passive transport, it involves the movement of molecules, so without expenditure of energy, that is from higher to lower concentration, it has been transported easily. ಅಂದರೆ ಪ್ಯಾಸಿವ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ಸು ಸಾಲ್ವೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಹೈಯರ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನಿಂದ ಲೋಯರ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ಗೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಗ್ರೇಡಿಯಂಟ್ಗೆ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಂಡಿಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಬೇಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ಸ್ ಆ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಡಿಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆಸ್ಮೋಸಿಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೇಟೆಡ್ ಡಿಫ್ಯೂಷನ್. Whereas active transport, the movement of molecules that occurs from lower to higher concentration. So for to move molecules from lower to higher concentration, it needs an expenditure of energy that is in the form of ATP. So active transport ಯಾವ process ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ, that is by chemiosmosis ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು process ಮತ್ತು charge gradient. So here the means of transport in plants ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ಗಳು, that is diffusion, facilitated diffusion, passive symport and antiports, active transport. So first one, diffusion. So what is meant by diffusion? The movement of molecules from higher concentration gradient to lower concentration gradient. So here the factors that was affecting the diffusion, it was completely based on the concentration gradient and even the permeability of the membrane. So separating the substance and even the temperature and pressure. So the diffusion, the net movement of particles from the area of higher concentration to the area of lower concentration. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, movement of molecule random ಆಗಿ occur ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, and it is also a passive transport because it does not need any expenditure of energy in this process. Another one, that is a facilitated diffusion. ಇಲ್ಲಿ diffusion ಆಗೋಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು molecules, extra molecule help ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, that is called as an carrier proteins ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So it is called as facilitated diffusion. While non-polar substance diffuse through the membrane, the polar substance move with the help of special proteins, that is called as carrier proteins. This process is called as facilitated diffusion. The plasma membrane, which acts like a selectively permeable membrane, it was allowing the substance that to cross the cell membrane by the help of a proteins called as, that is a carrier proteins ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, that is in a facilitated diffusion. The special protein helps the substance move against the concentration gradient, and this is energy dependent process. The energy for this supplied in the form of ATP. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಯಾವ ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ATP ಫಾರ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. The facilitated diffusion happens with the help of proteins which are selective in nature. Such transport is also sensitive to inhibitors. ಸೊ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೇಟೆಡ್ ಡಿಫ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಫೋಟೋ ಕಾಪಿಲಿ ನಾವು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಮಧ್ಯ ಇರೋದೇನು, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ cell membrane that has been made up of an biphospholipid layer. A biphospholipid ಅಲ್ಲಿ head ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ, tail appearance ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. The head which was showing an hydrophilic property and the tail it was showing an hydrophobic property. It was not allowing the substance. But cell membrane ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು purple color representation ಏನು ತೋರಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ, that is called as carrier proteins. So these carrier proteins they helpful for the transportation of molecules from inside to outside and even outside to inside the cell of an molecules. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ symport, antiport and uniport. So these are the three mechanisms where the molecules are moved from higher to lower concentration gradient. So if the molecule, any one molecules they are moving alone, that is called as uniport. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಕಲರ್ ರೆಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲು ಒಂದು ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಸೆಲ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ಮೂಲಕ ಹಾದು ಹೋದರೆ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಯೂನಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ದ ಟೂ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಮೂವಿಂಗ್ ಅಲಾಂಗ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್ ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಸೆಲ್ ಮೆಂಬ್ರೇನ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅನ್ ಸಿಂಪೋರ್ಟ್. Another one antiport, that was the molecules they are moving in an opposite direction. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಬಟ್ ಎರಡು opposite direction ಮೂವ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So this movement it involves a concentration, it was completely depending on the concentration gradient. Active transport. So this process involves the movement of molecules from lower to higher concentration, that is with the expenditure of energy. So here the active transport is carried out by the membrane proteins. The pumps are the proteins which use the energy to carry the substance across the cell membrane. The rate of transport reaches the maximum when the proteins it is helpful for transportation and even it has been used as a saturated molecule. So here the plant water relation. So water is essential for all the living organism. So the properties of water is like it is an essential for all the physiological activities of a cell of plant body. It provides the medium in which the most substance are dissolved. The protoplasm of the cell is nothing but water which different molecules are dissolved and suspended. most herbaceous plants have only about 10 to 15% of its fresh wet as dry matter. So next one, that is a water potential. Water potential andre, so it is a fundamental aspect of movement of water. So water in a fundamental aspects movement na navenante karitivi water potential anta karitivi. So here the potential energy of water molecules, so it involves the solute concentration and even a pressure. The water moves from the area of higher water potential to lower water potential. So here the water potential, it has been denoted or symbolized by the help of a symbol called as psi. ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಒಂದು ಫೋಟೋಕಾಪಿಲಿ ನಾವು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ವಾಟರ್ ಪೊಟೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ನ psi ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ಸಿಂಬಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿನೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ psi W. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಪೊಟೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್. Solute potential. So water potential ಎರಡು ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, that is solute potential and pressure potential. So what is meant by solute potential? Solute ಅಂದ್ರೆ the substance that is dissolving in a solvent. Solvent nothing but the liquid helpful for to dissolve the solute. When the solute plus solvent it has been added together, it forms a solution. So here solute potential, all the solution have a lower water potential because they are dissolved by the solutes. The magnitude of lowering of water potential is called as solute potential, that has been denoted by psi S. So it is an important to remember that the solute's potential is always a negative. For the solution at atmospheric pressure, the water potential is always equal to the solute potential. So next one, that is a pressure potential. So the pressure potential, where it involves, it is a tendency of water to move in response to the pressure. So here the turgor pressure is an important source of pressure on the water in the cell. So next process, that is called as osmosis. That is another means of an transport. So where the movement of a solvent, diffusion, facilitated diffusion, ನಾವು ಆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಯಾವುದಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಎನಿ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ ಆಸ್ಮೋಸಿಸ್ ಮೂವ್ ಆಗೋದೇನು, ಸಾಲ್ವೆಂಟ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡ್ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋದನ್ನು ಆಸ್ಮೋಸಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಆಸ್ಮೋಸಿಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ವಿಚ್ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ಸ್ ದ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಾಲ್ವೆಂಟ್ from the region of higher concentration gradient to lower concentration gradient through the semi-permeable membrane, that is called as osmosis. So to define osmosis and to conduct a specific osmosis, we have already conducted a physiological experiment called as potato osmoscope. So next one, so osmosis, nothing but the movement of molecules from higher to lower concentration, that is a solvent molecule. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಎಂಡೋಸ್ಮೋಸಿಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಹೆಕ್ಸಾಸ್ಮೋಸಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಎಂಡೋ ನೇಮ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಕೇಟಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ದ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ into inside, and exosmosis nothing but the movement of water outside. So for to define this process, again it consisting of plasmolysis and deplasmolysis process anta kariteve. So classification of plasmolysis, it was completely on the basis of osmotic pressure and concentration gradient. So on this basis, there is 3 types of solutions are present, that is based on the concentration of solute that has been added in the solvent. There are 3 types of solution: hypertonic solution, hypotonic solution and isotonic solution. In that first one, hypertonic solution. Hyper andre gottida higher concentration anta, but yen higher concentration no solute. So if the solute was more concentrated in the solution, that is in an external media, than in the cell, that is called as an hypertonic solution. So here the hypertonic solution nothing but the solution that was present in that photocopy, we can observe that one of the cell has been present, that is a plant cell. In the external media has been also present. The external media which consisting of solution, that is a hypertonic solution. In hypertonic solution, the solute is more concentrated than the solute present inside the cell. So that solution is called as hypertonic solution. So ಇಂತಹ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವೇನಾದರೂ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ನ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ, if the cells are kept in an hypertonic solution, ಸೊ ವಾಟರ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ, ದಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಸೆಲ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಸಲ್ಯೂಟಿನ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ. ಸೊ ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಶೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಆ್ಯನ್ ಹೆಕ್ಸಾಸ್ಮೋಸಿಸ್, ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ದ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ವಾಟರ್ which was higher concentration gradient in a cell than in a external media. So the water from the cell, it comes outside. That is called as exosmosis. When the cells are kept in hypertonic solution, due to exosmosis, the cells become shrink or plasmolyzed, or even called as flaccid. So next one, hypotonic solution. Hypo means less. In this photocopy, we can observe that the cell that has been again kept in a hypotonic solution. So in hypotonic solution, the solute concentration was less compared to the solute that was present inside the cell. ಅಂದರೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಮೀಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಸಲ್ಯೂಟಿನ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಇದೆ ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸೆಲ್ಗೆ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಹೊರಗಡೆದನ್ನು ನಾವೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ hypotonic solution. So when the cells that have been kept in an hypotonic solution, so now the water concentration was more in external media than in the cell. So the movement of water molecules, it occurs inside. That means it was showing an endosmosis. Here, when the cells are kept in hypotonic solution, due to endosmosis, the cells become turgid. That is called, it was showing an swelling condition. Isotonic solution. Iso nothing but same. So here, the cell which was consisting as solute, and even the external media, it is also consisting as solute, they are showing an same concentration. If the solute that was having the same concentration present inside the cell, that is called as isotonic. So if in this solution the cell has been kept, it was not showing any specific changes. So next process, that is called imbibition. So it is a process which involves the absorption of water, that is from a solid particles, that is through colloids, resulting in the enormous increase in the volume. So this is called as imbibition. So for this we can give an example. Imbibition ಅನ್ನೋ processಗೆ ಏನು example ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು. One of the example, that is a seed swell up because of this process. ಸೊ ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ವಾಟರ್ನ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿಟ್ರೆ ಸ್ವೆಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಹೌದಾ? ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಇಂಬಿಬಿಷನ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ಸಿಂದ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಈವನ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ವಿಂಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ರೈನಿ ಸೀಸನ್, ಸೊ ವುಡನ್ ಡೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ವಿಂಡೋಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಸ್ವೆಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಜಾಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಆ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ಸು ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು? ಇಂಬಿಬಿಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಡು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ಸ್ ದ ವಾಟರ್? ಸೊ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಸಾಯಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಯೂಶಲಿ ಥ್ರೂ ದ ರೂಟ್ ಹೇರ್ಸ್. So root hairs in the absorb agiro water, it again transported into an epidermal cells, that is through a walls, and again it enters into one cortex region in the direct endodermis ಮೂಲಕ xylem tissues ಗೆ water transportation ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. So this water, it has been absorbed and even transported by a two distinct pathway, that is called apoplastic pathway and symplastic pathway. So the first one is apoplastic pathway. So here the water that has been absorbed from the root hairs, ಅಂದರೆ water root hairs ಇಂದ absorb ಆಗಿತ್ತು, ಎಪಿಡರ್ಮಲ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಬಂದು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ it has been transported through the intercellular spaces between the cells. ಕಾರ್ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ ರೀಜನಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂಥ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಫೋಟೋದಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಎಪಿಡರ್ಮಿಸ್ ರೂಟ್ ಹೇರ್ಸ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ವಾಟರ್ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? ಎರಡು ಕಾರ್ಟೆಕ್ಸಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ಗಳ ಮಧ್ಯದಿಂದ, ಅಂದರೆ ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಇಂಟರ್ಸೆಲ್ಯುಲರ್ ಸ್ಪೇಸಸ್. ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ನೀಡ್ಸ್ ಟು ಎಂಟರ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ಅನ್ ಎಂಡೋಡರ್ಮಿಸ್, ಇಟ್ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಅನ್ ಕ್ಯಾಸ್ಪೇರಿಯನ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೈಪ್, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಕ್ಯಾಸ್ಪೇರಿಯನ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೈಪು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಅಲೋ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾಸೇಜ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅದ್ರ ಮೂಲಕ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? ಇಟ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಎಂಟರ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ಅನ್ ಪೆರಿಸೈಕಲ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇನ್ ಟು xylem tissues. So here apoplastic pathway, it involves the free diffusional space outside the plasma membrane is the apoplast. This is interrupted by Casparian stripe in roots, air space between plant cells and the cuticula of the plant. The apoplast is formed by the continuum of cell wall and even the adjacent cells. So the symplast, it involves the movement of molecules, that is through the cells that are present in the cortex, that is through the plasmodesmatal channel. So ಈ ಫೋಟೋಕಾಪಿದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. So there is a blue line that was indicating that the movement of absorption of water by the process called as apoplast. So water that absorbed from the root hairs, it crosses the epidermal wall and even it has been transported through the intercellular spaces and it reaches the xylem tissues through the endodermis and the pericycle. Whereas in symplast, the water that absorbed from the root hairs, it has been transported through the plasmodesmatal channels of each cell. So for this transportation, it takes a expenditure of energy, and even it takes a long durations. So water movement up a plant. The water that has been absorbed from the root hairs, it need to be transported upside. So here it need to be utilized for each plant tissues and organs of an plant body. So first it can be defined by a process called as root pressure. What is meant by root pressure? The pressure exerted by the roots over the xylem vessels, or the pressure exerted by the water molecules over the walls of root pressure. That is, when a various ions from the soil are actively transported in the vascular tissue of the roots, water also follows. So water, they are not moving alone. Along with that, the ion molecules, they are also transported through. So this increases the pressure inside the xylem. This positive pressure is called as root pressure. So here the root pressure can push up to small heights in the stem. ರೂಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಅಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಡೆಮಾನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರೆ, ವೆಲ್ ವಾಟರ್ಡ್ ಪಾಟೆಡ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಇಟ್ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಬಿ ಕಟ್ ಇನ್ ಆನ್ ಹಾರಿಸಾಂಟಲ್ ವೇ. ಸೊ ಹಾರಿಸಾಂಟಲ್ ವೇಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇಟ್ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಅನ್ ಬೆಂಡ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್. So there is an instrument which is called manometer, helpful for measure the root pressure. ಸೊ ಈಗ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ನ ನಾವು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಯಾಪ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅನ್ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡ್ ಕಾಂಪೋಸಿಷನ್, ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಯೂಡ್ ಔಟ್. ಸೊ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಮೌಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಯೂಡ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ರೂಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಮೇಲೆ. So here, when the well-watered potted plant has been cut in an horizontal composition, the manometer, it is used to measure the pressure of an exuded from the cut part of a plant body. So guttation. So this is a process which involves, so that is a loss of water in the form of liquid droplets from the hydatodes, which are called as water stomata. So limitations of root pressure. So the root pressure, it contributes towards the re-establishment of continuous chain of water molecules in the xylem, which often break under enormous tension created by the transpiration pull. So next one, that is a transpiration pull. So the evaporative loss of water by the plant is called as transpiration. That is, the removal of excess of water from the aerial parts of the plant body is called as transpiration. So we already discussed about that. It occurs by the process called as by the help of stomata, and even through cuticle, and even through lenticel. But most of all, the transpiration in plant, it occurs by the stomata. So here the transpiration mainly occurs through the stomata. They are usually open during daytime and remain closing during night time. So this is an instrument which is called potometer, helpful for to measure the transpiration pull, the rate of transpiration pull. So the amount of transpiration it occurs, it was completely relating that the amount of the water that has been absorbed. So the factors that they are affecting the transpiration pull, it involves temperature, light, humidity, wind speed, number and distribution of stomata, number of stomatal aperture with the guard cells open, water status of the plant, and even canopy structure. Solute transport. So here the solute transport in plants, it involves translocation. Primary, it occurs in the phloem, but it can occur in the xylem also. So solute transport in the xylem. ಸೊ xylem ಅಂದರೆ ವಾಟರ್ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್, ಬರೀ ವಾಟರ್ ಮಾಲಿಕ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಏನು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ, ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ಕೂಡ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಸೊ ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಡಿಸಾಲ್ವ್ಡ್ ಅಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ primarily transported in the xylem and move via the transpiration stream in vessels that is called as tracheids. Xylem sap may also contain the organic material, usually in relatively low concentration. So the substance move at a different rate. It was depends on matrix effects and metabolic needs, etc. So next one, the solute transport in phloem. Phloem ali solute transportation. Phloem is difficult to study in plants because the transport cells or tissues in plants are small in comparison to the transport structure in animals. So there is a very rapid response of phloem to an injured part, that is called wounding part. The transport in plant is intracellular, and even the transports or cells are alive. So next process, that is called pressure flow theory. The pressure flow theory, it explains that the movement of liquid solute molecules, that is from source to sink. Source ಮತ್ತು ಸಿಂಕ್. ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? ದ ರೀಜನ್ ವೇರ್ ದ ಫುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ಡ್. ಯಾವ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಫುಡ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಆ ಜಾಗನ ನಾವು ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ದ ರೀಜನ್ ದಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ಡ್ ದ ಫುಡ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಸಿಂಕ್. ಯಾವ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಫುಡ್ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಜಾಗನ ಸಿಂಕ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಯಾವುದಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ? ಲೀಫ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸಿಂಕ್ ಯಾವುದಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ? ಸ್ಟೆಮ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ರೂಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. So here the sugar begins at the source and are pumped into the phloem tube cells. Osmosis move water into the cell and raises pressure. Pressure moves the sap. Pressure flow review. So thus it is a pressure gradient that is between the source and sink. Source nothing but where the food has been prepared, that is called leaf, and sink it may be a shoot and even a root that drives the content of the phloem up and down through the sieve tubes. So pressure flow ge idu ಒಂದು diagrammatic representation. There is a mechanism of translocation. Translocation ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ನಮಗೆ. There is a movement of molecules to a longer distance. So root ಇಂದ absorb ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ water molecules along with ions that has been transported towards the upper part of the plant body. So in that the leaf it coordinate. So that is by the process of photosynthesis it starts preparing the food material in the form of glucose, that is called sugar. So which acts like a source. So e source next ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ? It has been transported to all body parts of a plant body. So towards the root and even towards the shoot. That is called pressure flow hypothesis. So ಈ pressure flow hypothesis ನ ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, which is called as girdling experiment. So let us discuss about some of the MCQs in this chapter. So diffusion or rates are affected by. Diffusion, it is a means of transport which involves the movement of molecules from higher concentration area to lower concentration area. So here which involves option A pressure, B temperature, C concentration gradient, D all of these. Diffusion rate ಇಷ್ಟರೊಳಗಡೆ ಯಾದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ affect ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? So here the given option, that is a pressure, even a concentration gradient and even a temperature rate and density also it was depending. So the correct option for this question is D all of these. The factors affecting diffusion, it involves pressure, temperature, concentration gradient, density, etc. Gaseous movement into and out of the plant occurs indirectly through. So here plant body gaseous exchange, that is an exchange of oxygen and even a carbon dioxide molecule. So here first option osmosis, B diffusion, C transpiration, D imbibition. So the correct option for this is the movement of molecules from high area of higher concentration to lower concentration that occurs by the means called as diffusion. So the correct option for the second question is B diffusion. Diffusion is the only means of gaseous exchange. So which of the following process requires the membrane protein? So ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದು membrane proteinಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು? First option simple diffusion, imbibition, facilitated diffusion. More than one option is correct. So simple diffusion, it involves the movement molecules from higher to lower concentration. Imbibition, so nothing but the absorption of water from the solid particles. Facilitated diffusion ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಏನು ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ? Carrier proteins ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, that is to transport the molecules from even inside and even to outside. So the correct option for third question is C facilitated diffusion. It involves a protein channels in the plasma membrane. So a cell when immersed in a solution, it increase in volume. So the external solution is ಒಂದು ಸೆಲ್ನ ಒಂದು ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಸೆಲ್ಸಿನ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ? ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಯಿತು, ಅದ್ರದ್ದು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಮ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಯಿತು ಅಂದರೆ ಟರ್ಜಿಡ್ ಅಟೈನ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಆದರೆ ಆ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ? ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಹೈಪರ್ಟೋನಿಕ್, ಬಿ ಐಸೋಟೋನಿಕ್, ಸಿ ಹೈಪೋಟೋನಿಕ್. ಸೊ ಡಿ ಐದರ್ ಹೈಪರ್ಟೋನಿಕ್ ಆರ್ ಹೈಪೋಟೋನಿಕ್. So usually when the cells are kept in a hypotonic solution only, the cells it was showing a increasing in its volume. So andamele the correct option hypotonic solution. The higher concentration of water as a result and osmosis occurs, the water moves from the external media into the cell. As a result, volume of cell it increases. So in active transport, So active transport, nothing but the movement of molecules from lower to higher concentration, which needs an expenditure of energy. So the given option, energy is required, membrane proteins are involved, pumps are present, and even all of these. So here active transport involves energy, that is in the form of ATP, and even it relates to a pump mechanism. So here the protein that was present in our membrane also involving in this process. The correct option for this question is D, all of these. Energy is required in the form of ATP, membrane proteins are also involved, and even the pumps are present. So next, sixth question, that is osmotic potential. So here osmotic potential ge option A positive, B negative, always 0, greater than 0. ಸೊ ಈಗ ಆಸ್ಮೋಟಿಕ್ ಪೊಟೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಆನ್ಸರು ಬಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಂದರೆ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಆಸ್ಮೋಟಿಕ್ ಪೊಟೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಟು ದ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅ ಸಲ್ಯೂಷನ್. It was completely relating on how much of what solute that has been added. So what solutionಗೆ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆ್ಯಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಟರ್ ಪೊಟೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಲಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿನೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. So the hydrostatic pressure, so which develops due to entry of water into a plant cell. So first option A positive, B negative, C 0, D undetermined. So for this, even the turgor pressure, so hydrostatic pressure anta ತಗೊಂಡಾಗ ವಾಟರು ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅಟೈನಿಂಗ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಟರ್ಜಿಡ್, ಅಂದರೆ ಸ್ವೆಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ಆ ಗ್ರೇಡಿಯಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಏನು ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತೆ, ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಎ, ದಿಸ್ ಟರ್ಗರ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಈಸ್ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್. ಸೊ ದ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸೆವೆಂತ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಈಸ್ ಎ. ಸೊ ಟರ್ಗರ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಈಸ್ ದ, ಅಗೇನ್ ಅದೇ ಥರನೇ ಕ್ವಶನು, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬೇರೆ ಥರ. ಸೊ ಪಾಸಿಟಿವ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್, ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್, atmospheric pressure, imbibition pressure. So here turgor pressure is exerted by the cell on to the external environment. So it was reflecting with a positive pressure. So the correct option for 8th question is A, that is positive pressure. Plant seeds when sown in the soil germinate and come out of it due to. So here ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಸೋ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ ಸಾಯಿಲಲ್ಲಿ, ಅದು ಜರ್ಮಿನೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಸಾಯಿಲಿಂದ ಆಚೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ಸು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮೆಕ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಟರ್ಗರ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್, ಇಂಬಿಬಿಷನ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್, ಆಸ್ಮೋಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್, ಅಟ್ಮಾಸ್ಫೆರಿಕ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್. ಸೊ ಇದು ಸ್ವೆಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಒಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ವಿ. ಯಾವ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ಸು, ಇಂಬಿಬಿಷನ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ಸು. ಸೊ ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇಂಬಿಬಿಷನ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್. ಆಸ್ ದ ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಬ್ಸ್ ದ ಮಾಯಿಶ್ಚರ್, ಇಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸೀಡ್ ಕೋಟ್ಸ್ breaks. So the correct option for 9th question is imbibition pressure, that is B. So water reaches xylem from root hairs by, so apoplast pathway, symplast pathway, both A and B, D imbibition. So here the water that has been absorbed from the root hairs, it has been transported through the cell and even through the intercellular spaces by two mechanisms which involve symplast and apoplast. So the correct option for this question is both A and B. So hydrothodes, so these are all commonly called as water stomata, that they are involved in guttation, that is a removal of excess of water, so through an water stomata. Usually it occurs in herbaceous plants during a night time. So here first option bleeding, second guttation, C protection against grazing. More than one option is correct. So here the correct option for hydrothode helps in guttation. So B option is correct. They are broad opening of vein ending which helps in exudation of solutes along with water, which is called as guttation. So next 12th question, select an incorrect statement. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅಥವಾ ರಾಂಗ್ ಇರುವಂಥ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ನ ನಾವು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಗಾರ್ಡ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಡಂಬೆಲ್ ಶೇಪ್ ಇನ್ ಮೊನೊಕಾಟ್ಸ್. Inner wall of an guard cell is thin and elastic in dicot. Cellulosic microfibrils are arranged radially in guard cells. Guard cells are surrounded by subsidiary cell. So idರಲ್ಲಿ first one, guard cells, that is on stomatal operators. So usually it was bean shaped in dicots, whereas in monocots ಅದು ಡಂಬಲ್ ಶೇಪ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅದು ಎ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ, ರಾಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. Inner wall of guard cell is thin and elastic in dicots. ಡೈಕಾಟ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಗಾರ್ಡ್ಸಲ್ಲಿನ ಇನ್ನರ್ ವಾಲ್ ಅಂತ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಯೂಶಲಿ ಥಿಕ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ನಾನ್ ಎಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್. ಔಟರ್ ವಾಲು ಥಿನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ಬಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನಮಗೆ. ಸೊ ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ದ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಫಾರ್ 12th ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಿ. ದ ಇನ್ನರ್ ವಾಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಗಾರ್ಡ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಇಸ್ ಥಿಕ್, ಔಟರ್ ವಾಲ್ is thin and elastic. Water is mainly transported to shoot tips by the help of A. Capillarity, root pressure, transpiration pull, canopy structure. So here the water that has been absorbed from the roots, it has been translocated, that is a long distance transport anta ಏನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So it was completely depending upon the cohesion and tension adhesion process called as transpiration pull. So the correct option for 13th is transpiration pull is mainly responsible for ascent of sap. So 14th question. The phenomena not associated with root pressure is. So ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ root pressure ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೆ associate ಆಗಲ್ಲ. First one, sap exudation, bleeding, guttation, transpiration. ಸೊ ಸ್ಯಾಪ್ ಎಕ್ಸುಡೇಷನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಬ್ಲೀಡಿಂಗ್, ಗಟೇಷನ್ ಇವಿಷ್ಟು ರೂಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ನ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಸ್ಯಾಪ್ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥ ಎಕ್ಸುಡೇಷನ್ ಆಚೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ಲಿ ರಿಲೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ರೂಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಇದ್ರೊಳಗಡೆ ಯಾವುದು ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಡಿ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್. ಸೊ ದ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಫಾರ್ 14th ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಈಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್. ಇಟ್ is related with the cohesion, adhesion and surface tension mediated pull mechanism. When water enters into roots due to diffusion, it is termed as. So first osmosis, B passive absorption, C endocytosis, D active absorption. So ಇಷ್ಟು process ಒಳಗಡೆ ಯಾವ processಲ್ಲಿ diffusion ಅಂತ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ it is a passive transport. It does not need any expenditure of energy process ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So ಹಂಗಾಗಿ the correct option for 15th is passive absorption, that is B, as it does not require energy. So next question, there is a guttation is a result of. So first osmosis, B root pressure, diffusion, next one to transpiration. ಸೊ ಇದೇ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ನ ನಾವು ಲಾಸ್ಟಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ರೂಟ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ 14th ಕ್ವಶನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಕೂಡ. ಸೊ root pressure, it has been completely relating by process called as guttation. So due to passive absorption of solute and solvent, there is a accumulation of molecule which creates a positive hydrostatic pressure in the root. So the correct option for 16th is root pressure. So these are about the MCQs in this chapter, students. Thank you.